I just played that because I happened to see. I always forget to turn the refrigerator off. This is a big dummy. I happened to see the footage of our commander-in-chief shaking hands. It appeared not only once but twice with a ghost after his last speech. He turned to the right, stuck his hand out. Nobody there. He turned around to which his back was to the camera, so you couldn't really see what was going on. It appeared that he tried to do it again. Then he had a bewildered look, a befuddled look as he wandered off the stage. I mean, it's every single time this dude gets up there. Every time. It doesn't matter. Every single solitary time this dude gets in front of people. I mean, it's just embarrassing. What is he talking about? What is going on? I mean, it's absolutely crazy. I'm going to pull up the video. I'm sure everybody's seen it. If you haven't, then here, this is going to be a happy day for you. But I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. It's like
forbidden.
Okay, so I'm going to just play the clip off of, I'm probably going to catch something for doing it. I'll do it this way, but all right. It's only a 57-second video. But this is what happens when you shake hands with a ghost, I guess. And I'm looking, I'll pull it up here. There's a gal behind him. She's got a miss something. I can't read the banner because she's clapping, but she's got a tiara and she's clapping and smiling. And I can't tell what it's Miss N something A. Looks like a 3-letter acronym, and I can't make out this. Maybe I'll see it when, between her claps or whatever. But give me a second. Let me just pull this up here because this is absolutely this is crazy. I mean, just when you think it doesn't get nuttier, like it can't. Like you think, oh God, there's no way it can't get any. Like he can't get any crazier than he is. Oh no, you'd be wrong if you thought that. All right, let's bring him up, get him full screen here. Let me bring in some audio so y'all can hear this and enjoy it. Here we go. Whoop, no, nobody there. Nobody there. I'll point my get a finger gun. What's Miss NCA? He doesn't even, where's he going? What?
American manufacturing is coming back.
Oh, is
Once
it?
again, we're seeing the pride that comes from stamping a product made in America.
Well, how would you know about that?
Build their new factories here in America. Just a few years ago, as you all know, that wouldn't have been the case. They would have built the factory overseas.
Oh, just a few years. Oh, really? Oh, nobody there. No. This guy over here on the left, he stands up. He's like, I'm just going to try and help you out. A wave. Yeah, don't come over here. I'm not shaking hands with you. He wanders down here. I mean, boy. I mean, he just doesn't even know. He doesn't know what's going on. It's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely nuts. It makes you wonder. It's like, what in the world is going on with this guy? I mean, I know what's going on. He's senile. He's old. But people, this is bad. This is bad. I mean, this is really bad. Between him and then the VP and the speaker, these people are nuts. They're nuts. You can't understand what they're saying. You got one, she gets up there and talks about the passage of time, the significance of the passage of time, the significance of the passage of time, the significance of the passage of time. One thing we're going to talk about today is the significance of the passage of time. In case I hadn't mentioned it already, we're going to talk about the significance of the passage of time. Really? A friend in need is a friend indeed. When she's being asked about, how the U.S. is going to respond and deal with refugees. She just does that maniacal, uncontrollable laugh. I don't know. I mean, we got some big time problems here, folks. I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but we do. I mean, if anybody's looking at what's going on economically, they're saying now that we're at 8.5% inflation. Well, that's not entirely true because, in fact, we know how these things are calculated. So we're in double digits. It's bad. This is not good. Stock market's taking a hit. Cryptocurrency's taking a hit. Your rent prices have gone up 20%. Fuel prices are up just in March. They went up, I think it was 18.3% is what I saw. 18.3%. I went and put $50 in my truck day before yesterday. $50. 10 gallons of fuel. Didn't even put me at half a tank. And I was only at a quarter. I got a 38-gallon tank diesel truck. You can do the math on that. It's just shy of $200. Just shy. It's like $190 to fill my tank up right now. Who could afford that? I mean, I can hardly even afford to put fuel in my motorcycle right now. And I get, way better fuel mileage than that. So anyway, there was our fearless leader shaking hands with nobody. So, I mean, the list could go on and on and on. I mean, you start with the long fart with the Duchess of Cornwall when he's over there at the, whatever, the climate fucking summit or whatever, where he's falling asleep. It's so important to him. The climate's so important to old Joe. The thing is these things don't affect these people. The what goes on as far as inflation, fuel costs, food shortages, it's right around the corner. I mean, literally, we are coming up on, in the next, 2 months. 2 months from now, we're going to be maybe just a little bit more than 2 months, maybe a little over 2 months. Look at maybe 65, 70 days. I mean, I hope that I'm not sitting there at that point in time doing it. I told you so. I really do. I mean, if there's anything I'd like to be wrong about, it would be this, but I don't see it. We've got some serious problems going on. The inflation is terrible. Interest rates, they should be, typically what they do to get us out of one of these things is they raise the interest rates, which is, the whole damn system is a mess. It's only a matter of time, and the time might be now, but this fractional reserve banking system is absolutely not sustainable. There's no way. You can't just keep making things up and saying that it's real. You can't do that. You can't. I mean, and we're having a problem. You've got what's going on in China right now. Where do we get our goods from? We get them from over there. They're locking people down like crazy. They've locked people in factories. They're locking people in their homes with no food. People are trying to kill themselves. I mean, I heard a recording the other night of people it was in Shanghai. And you've got the military marching around the streets, and they got people just locked inside. Like, you're not getting out. Like, you're not going outside. You're not going anywhere. Like, they don't give a shit what you got for food, water, nothing. I mean, in the one province, the Jiangxi province, where they do have, from my understanding, that is the, that's where most of the predominant amount of the factories, it's the industrial area of China. I mean, you've got 17 million people right there in that area, and they locked everybody down with 60 cases of this new variant, the unicorn XAB1CD2, Dr. Fauci, whatever. We've got problems going on here with avian flu, H5N1. They haven't talked about it very much, but the numbers I got the other day were it was like 28 million birds between turkeys and chickens have been killed. A large amount of those in Iowa, which happens to be the country's largest producer of eggs. So get ready for eggs to go up. I just went and bought 5 dozen the other day. But we go through them pretty quick. I like eating eggs. Kid likes eating eggs. So we go through them fast. But I mean, that's going to go through the roof too, just along with everything. And then the other thing I've been looking at recently, and the reason I searched this up was, it was back when I was in college, and I'm back in, a long time ago. I came across, I can't remember what kind of it was a scientific journal of some sort, but they were talking about the Dark Ages and what role the sun played in solar activity, what role that played in the Dark Ages, how humanity went from, being pretty well civilized to all of a sudden we're in the feudal system. And what they relate it to was solar activity. So it led me to go back to the Carrington Event of 1859. And Carrington was he was an astronomer, I guess. And he had a telescope that he could actually, this was in 1859, he could actually apparently look at the sun, and he saw a big, huge white event happen. Well, what transpired was what they called the Carrington Event, and you had people that were used to getting up with the sun, worker type individuals that were getting up at like 1 a.m, making coffee, wondering why they felt so tired, and then looking at a clock and realizing that it was 1 a.m. and it was completely bright outside. Well, that solar event, they took the power off. Okay, so the way that people communicated, obviously, in 1859 was through the telegram. So they, unhooked all the power. However, there was enough solar activity that the telegram still kept working. I mean, it was a bad deal. You had, the grid basically went down. And we were supposedly slated to get hit with one yesterday. Now, the time frame I saw on it was based on Indian time. And I haven't seen anything that shows that in the United States that we necessarily felt any ramifications of it. But we've had a lot of solar activity, and it leads me to wonder about the way people are acting right now in this time, because it just seems like we're just surrounded by idiots, absolute morons. I mean, you've got everybody losing their mind about this Twitter thing. I mean, a few years ago, I remember the first guy that I knew, I'm sitting there bartending one night, and he comes in and he's like, I just put up my first tweet. And I'm like, well, good for you, fella. What are you talking about? He's like, oh, it's this new app. I'm like, what the fuck is an app? And he proceeds to try and tell me about it. I'm like, so this is just some app that what do you get on there and you tell everybody like when you're taking a shit, or what are you doing here? You just, like, people want to know within 140 characters. And I thought at that point in time, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Who gives a fuck what anybody else, I want to sit there. I'm going to sit there and read, what some idiot's doing across the country. Why do I? Well, look what it's turned into. I mean, you think about how dumbed down we've become, that we take so seriously 140 word or 140 character. I don't know, is it 140 words or 140 characters? I don't know. I don't tweet that often, although it isn't. It's kind of one of those things that, obviously I pay some attention. I don't look at it daily by any means. I mostly see people talking about what he tweeted, and tweet. And, I mean, I think of tweet, and I think of my boy down in New Orleans, or I think about Tweety Bird. To say that I tweeted, it just doesn't sound right. I mean, I guess I'd kind of throw it right in there in the same category like crap chat. I mean, it just doesn't seem to be, but apparently it's a thing. And I know you all are into it. And I'm on there too. I'm guilty as charged. I'm on there, and sometimes I respond. And I mean, usually it's just to, ruffle some feathers. But everybody's losing their minds because Elon Musk, he's had problems with the Twitter land, or I don't know, that weirdo Jack Dorsey that apparently he owns it. He was the CEO, but then I think they took his birthday away or something, and then they gave him some weird shirts and he grew out his beard, and then they decided that the First Amendment didn't matter and that they were going to just have their own agenda. Now they've got this new president or whatever that he's got some kind of an agenda. All I know is you can't say what you want on there because you're going to hurt feelings, and you can't say what you want on here. You can't say what you want anywhere because, it's going to hurt somebody's feelings or it's bad, So unless you're going along with the agenda, as long as you're going along with the narrative that everybody wants you to go along with, then you're fine. But don't think for yourself. Please don't think for yourself, people. They've told you not to do it. They've told you critical thinking is a bad thing to do. Come on. Where would we be if you thought for yourself? Yeah. Look where we're at now. We let everybody else do our thinking for us, and this is turning out great, isn't it? It's awesome. It's wonderful. Everything's just tanking and falling apart. We're involved in nonsense we shouldn't be involved again and again and again. And certainly the family of the head guy in charge, there's been nothing going on wrong with them. The laptop was Russian disinformation. Just ask ask the media. Oh, wait, they found out that it wasn't. I heard that, but I don't know if I'm believing him on that one. That Hunter Biden seems like a pretty trustworthy dude, doesn't he? I don't know. There may have been some CP on that laptop. I don't know. I haven't personally seen it. The guy that's releasing it, he might be hiding out in Switzerland right now because he's worried that somebody's going to kill him. I don't know. I don't know anything. I just tend to believe what they tell me. Whatever comes up across the screen, that's the truth. Especially if it comes from, the reputable organizations like CNN, MSDNC, ABC News, NBC. You can't question those people. Who would? Come on. People like Wolf Blitzer and Brian Williams. What about Brian Stelter? His commentary is beyond reproach, as I'm sure his personal hygiene is as well. When you only wear the same suit every day, I don't imagine that the guy can get that neck into any pajamas of any sort. He probably just that suit just every day. He probably has some kind of a dry cleaning setup where he just keeps the suit on and they put him on some kind of a spinny rack or something and goes around and get his ketchup and mustard stains off. I'd guess he probably eats that kitty mustard too. That French's plain yellow mustard. I don't know about you, but I can't stand that. I just call it kitty mustard because, I like a good mustard just as nice, as much as the next person. But, I like to go with a nice Dijon. I've got some chipotle mustard I picked up the other day. That's really good. But I can't do that yellow stuff. I think it's because it reminds me of my second grade teacher who used to eat, and my cousin and I were talking about this the other night. She would eat that shit on brownies. Yellow mustard on brownies. Had liver every day. Oh, I've never been able to eat liver. I wouldn't anyways. If you like liver, hey, good. That's more for you because I won't eat that. You're talking about the organ of an animal that cleans out all the nastiness, But by all means, fried die, lay that thing aside, put some yellow mustard on it, chow down. Really tasty. Then put some on your brownie for dessert. I hear it's good if you put it in your milk too. Yellow milk. It's like milking out a gym mat. Anyway. I was looking at the solar events that have been going on, and we've got a lot of them happening. The solar activity is way up. And, we got missed in 2003 by 9 days. 9 days, we almost got nailed with a bad one. And we just managed to get out of the way of it. And I'm talking about if there's planes up in the air, Like if one of these things comes at us and it's a serious deal, you're talking about like 30 minutes to ground planes. And anybody that's in a plane gets hit. I mean, you're talking about a lot of radiation. You're talking about the grid, done. Internet, done. Banking, not happening. Cell phones, I mean, that means you're not filling up your fuel tank because nothing's going to work. And everything's electric. I mean, so, you know, you're going to have, you know, if you want power, I mean, you're going to have a lot of fuel and a generator. I mean, to run my generator, I mean, it's going to take a tank of fuel a day. That's not going to last too long, you know? And you can't store fuel for that long either, you know, unless you're using stable. And even then, I'm not sure the longevity of that. But anyway, I thought that was pretty funny with, you know, the great leader sitting there and shaking hands with nobody. And so then that leads me, we'll move on from that. He can shake hands with whatever he wants. Shake hands with beef, with Wes Claypool. I don't know. So we move on from the Carrington event, and I'm thinking about people that are acting crazy, right? So I see the story of Frank James, who shot up the subway in New York City, in Brooklyn. Black man. And I will say it because nobody else wanted to say it, because they don't want to say that anybody other than white men are capable of doing atrocious things. I mean, this guy I've watched some of his videos. They took his channel down or whatever that he had on YouTube. And it's amazing that a guy like this has been on when a guy like me has been shut down twice in the short time that I've been doing this. Because I've cited medical studies. This guy's saying that he thinks that, you know, nuclear proliferation is a good thing. He was happy about Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson being appointed and confirmed, but he was mad that she was married to, and I quote, a fucking white man, is what he said. He doesn't think that black and white people should be together. He doesn't think that black and white people should have contact with one another. And he went in with smoke bombs and firearms and shot up the New York subway, which he then wandered around for apparently 29. He called himself in. He called in to turn himself in, and then wandered around for like an additional 29 hours. They put out the description of the man saying he was 5'5". I've seen video of him. He doesn't look to be 5'5" unless all the police officers in New York City are little people. Because 5'5" for a man is fairly short. I mean, that's, you know, I don't know. How tall is Tom Cruise? It's Tom Cruise height. It's a little person, you know. It's not that. There's a pretty big difference between being. I don't know what the average height is of a man in this country. I know I'm 6'1", somewhere in there, 6 feet and a half, whatever, 6 feet and 3/4. I don't know. And I don't feel like I'm that tall. But this they said this. I mean, there's no way this dude was 5'5", and nobody wanted to say that he was black, because if somebody's going to be a mass shooter, then obviously they got to be a white man, right? But it's just like nobody talked about Darrell Brooks that ran all those people over in Wisconsin. The guy that had just ran his baby's mama over a couple of days prior at the gas station, ran her over. He had a proclivity to running people over with his vehicle. I mean, the cops were shooting at him when he took off. I mean, that was just terrible. And you know, you don't even hear anything about it. You know, I mean, and you look at these incidents, and I mean, if it's a black man or some other race that does things like this, then it's a non-factor, and the media just wants to cover it up, act like it didn't happen. I mean, they're talking about black nationalists and how that's not even a thing. Well, it is a thing. And I mean, until we acknowledge these things, I mean, we have to look at you have to look at the underbelly of things in society, the things that we don't want to talk about. You have to have the uncomfortable conversations. I'm sorry, but you do. If you just act like things aren't there, then they're only going to get bigger. And then when they rear their head, they're going to be, of a horrible magnitude, and it's going to be something that we haven't addressed. Which is kind of why I try to approach the things that I do, because I feel like they're conversations that need to be had. I mean, I'm sorry about your feelings, really. But I mean, if we're talking about things that are really going on, things that are actual issues, and they hurt your feelings, then, maybe that's all the more reason that you should talk about them. There's some things that we've just beat the shit out of that we really don't need to talk about anymore. Do I think this Frank James guy was a racist? Yes, I do. From listening to what he had to say, I think he's a racist. I think for him to say that about the new Supreme Court justice and the fact that she's married to a white man and the way he reacts, I think that's racist. Just as I would say that to, if I were to hear that about somebody that was, an interracial marriage, on the other side of things, from a white person. I mean, if you were to come out and say something like that about, say, Bill Burr, about, his wife, I'd call that some racist bullshit. Straight up. It would be. So I don't understand why we can't call it what it is. We can make a huge mountain out of it on one side, right? But then when it exists in another fashion, I mean, how many white people have been out there, like, beating the shit out of old Asian women? How many times have we seen that happen? I saw a 70-year-old nurse on her way to work at the hospital in Los Angeles. Ended up dead. It wasn't a white man that did it. It was a black man. I've seen video of the Asian community being attacked in San Francisco. And I've not seen those attacks coming from white people. It's going from one group of people to another. And I've not seen white people involved. Call me out if I'm wrong. I'm not going to pull up any videos because it's actually just disgusting to even watch. I find it absolutely disgusting to see a full-grown man go flying across a street or whatever and put hands on an elderly lady. I don't care what race you're from. I don't give two shit. It doesn't matter. That's wrong. It's not right. And I'll call it out as wrong no matter who it is. I don't care. But I've not seen white people doing that. I just haven't. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is a case of that. I don't know. But it doesn't seem to be. And yet there's really nothing. I mean, they've formed groups in San Francisco. I mean, I've talked to my buddy out there. That's old Johnny Breeze. He's Filipino. Checking to make sure that that his family's doing all right and everything. I mean, you hate to see this type of shit. It's a crazy world. So that's what led me to start looking up this thing about solar activity, because I thought, this world is losing its mind, and what the fuck is going on here? And I remember reading that study back in the day, and there was mention of, how solar activity, a solar storm, how that it can change the CO2 levels. So like people aren't getting the correct amount of oxygen. It's going to mess with electronics, and there's going to be one coming. They said like every 11 years. So 2003, look at that. That was 19 years ago. So it's probably overdue. And I believe we did get hit a little bit with that one, but we missed the brunt of it, because from all the scientific research that I've kind of been looking up and paying attention to, it sounds like we did get hit with it, and that would make sense too, because look at 2003. That was the year that we went into Iraq and started war in Iraq over WMDs that didn't fucking exist. What are we on the verge of doing right now? I mean, it seems to me that we're on the verge of doing some really stupid shit based on things that I know I personally can't validate. I mean, I don't think anybody really can. You can look at what you see. I mean, I'm just saying I'm not going to go anywhere with this other than, I'm I'm sure everybody saw that there was a train station that was attacked in a place far away from here the other day. Did anybody look up, there's serial numbers, and there's on missiles, there's identifying numbers on those. Anybody happen to look any of that up? If you're interested, it's worth doing. Just look it up. See what you find. And then hit me up and let me know. I mean, if you can sit there with absolute certainty and tell me that this is this, and if A then B, and you can back it up, then go ahead. I'm not going to put it out there because I've looked it up, and I know what I saw, and I know what I found. So I encourage you, I implore you to do the same. And people quit putting out memes and horse shit on social media when you don't know if in fact it's true. I'm so sick of seeing that crap. That's why I don't look at Facebook anymore. It's why I don't hardly look at any social media anymore. The only time I'm even on any of this shit is just me doing this where I'm talking right here. That's it. Because I'm so sick of seeing all the lies. Like, you can't just go and just don't retweet shit. Don't repost shit. Don't put anything out there unless you can look into it and get behind it. And you can 100% say that what you're putting out there is the truth. Because if you can't, then you're just making the problem worse. And the bad thing is that when you put out the truth, then that's when you get hit. That's when you get censored. That's what's happened to me from just telling the truth. I've not put any, known to me, I've not put any lies out there. Any numbers that I read, anything that I cite, it's all stuff that I've looked up from credible sources, taken notes on, researched, and brought up. I mean, if you wonder where any of my numbers come from, I can sit here and look through my piles of notes. I keep every single show that I do. I put a date on the top of I just use index cards because they're easier for me to flip through. But there's a page number and there's a date on every single one of them. And I keep them there's a big pile of them. And that way I can go back and look through them, and reference them. And I'll be the first to say if I'm wrong. I mean, if I put something out there that's not right, trust me, I want to make it right. I don't want to give anybody any bad information about anything. Trust me, that's not my intention here. I don't have an agenda. I don't have a narrative. The only narrative I have is that the narrative that's going on out there and the shit that we're all fallen victim to is not good. That's it. And I don't think that there's anybody out there that can really argue otherwise. I don't know anybody out there that's really saying that things are going that great right now. I mean, we're in a bad way. This country's in a bad way. And I was saying this a year ago that we were in a third world country. And really we are. When we have this many people that are homeless, when we have these type of atrocious things going on, on all sides. Which led me to, like I said, that led me to wonder about, what kind of solar, I hadn't looked into it. I hadn't looked into solar activity recently. It was something that I've always used as a reference point when talking about the Dark Ages. But I hadn't thought about it in relation to what's going on right now. And it just seems like there's so much irrationality going on out there. There's so many, people are just acting crazy. It's doing crazy shit. I mean, when we're sitting here and we're, talking about the idea that 5, 6, 7-year-olds should be inundated with, gender identity and sexual orientation at 5, 6, 7 years old, when we have children that are having life-altering surgery done because a little boy decided that he liked the color pink, or wanted to play with some dolls, or because a little girl decided that she wanted to play with some Tonka trucks. I mean, that's perfectly natural and it's perfectly normal. It's normal for children to do that. I mean, look at adults. I mean, for fuck's sake, you got people out there that, do all sorts of goofy shit and whatever, as long as you're not hurting anybody. But you can't go it's like Kevin from The Office. You can't eat cats, Kevin. You can't eat cats. It's the same kind of idea. Come on. Although people do eat cats. People eat dogs too. People eat horses, whatever. They eat anything. people might be eating more of them too. I mean, we get up on with a food shortage, people getting hungry. I mean, I've been talking about that with people I know out here because a lot of people have cattle and livestock and shit. I'm like, what's going to happen? I mean, you're going to go back to the Old West where you got cattle rustlers and shit out there, and people have, I go ride my bike in a place where there's cattle everywhere out there that are, there's not a cowboy out there or anything watching them. They're just, they'll open one gate and then go and graze over here and, they know their areas, the owners of the cattle do, and they move them around. I mean, they're trying to do, a lot more responsible, use a lot more responsible grazing practices. But the price of beef. Out here where we live, there's dudes that know how to go out there and ain't no big deal to go out and nab some. There won't be deer left in this town, which I wouldn't shoot one of them anyways because they're kind of mangy and nasty. But if you're hungry, you're gonna do what you got to do, right? License or not. If you don't have money to buy a fishing license, and you're hungry, you might just still go fishing. You might go out and poach. People are going to do what they're going to have to do to get by. And it's not going in a good direction, folks. It's not going in a good direction. It's because we've put our trust and our faith in these idiots. In doing so, we're idiots. We've been so damn stupid. Watch the news. Look at this guy that we've put up there because of the orange man. This is what we went to. We decided to put a guy up there that's shaking hands with twice with nobody. When I get done speaking and I look to my right, if there's nobody there, he's reading cue cards. It's coming off the teleprompter. He's got a teleprompter that's freaking, humongous. Every time he speaks, it's all, and he still messes it up because he's senile. He's old. This is not the same guy that was, sitting there in 2012 on the debate stage. It's not the same guy. I'm just saying he's not this mentally. He's just, they talk about, he had a stuttering problem. Well, you listen to him talk up on the, during the vice presidential debates of 2012, and you listen to, any of his recent stuff, and you watch what he does. That's a bad deal. And the lies too. He's lied over and over and over and over. Lying about not having anything to do with his son's dealings. It's all a lie. And it's all coming out. Now, I don't know what's going to happen of it. My guess is that nothing's going to come of it. My guess is that he's going to be a 4-year president. His kid's going to get indicted. He's going to grant him a pardon. And they're going to slink off into the sunset. But his kid, he's making money off of Iran, China, Russia, Ukraine. Who knows where else? His brother, Tony Bobolinsky, who, by everything I've seen from the man, seems to be honorable. He found out what was going on. He was working for the outfit. He found out what was going on, and he wanted out. And he said, "Get my name out of this shit because you're not going to take my family's name down with it." He wanted nothing to do with it. I believe everything that guy says. He's got no reason. And he said he doesn't want to see them all go down or whatever. But he said he's also not going to sit there and let his family's name get run through the muck because of them. They don't care. They don't give a shit about him. They don't care about anybody. They don't care. The things that Jack Maxey, if you don't know who he is, look him up. The things he's saying that they've found, and apparently they found a whole nother slew of messages and images and things that Hunter thought he had deleted, and he hadn't, and they got those. And this guy's doing data dumps all over the place with this stuff. And it's only a matter of time. But the thing is that everybody out there is so stupid that they might not want to see it. That's what I'm saying. People don't want to recognize that which is uncomfortable. They don't want to acknowledge it. They just act like if it's not there, then it didn't happen. Well, when you've got crooks and crooked people that are running the show, which it's been going on for quite some time. This is not just some new thing. I mean, George Bush is he's a war criminal. They were behind torture. I mean, when I say we, not you and I personally, but we as in a country, I mean, we were behind the death of 1 million Iraqi people. We were behind the decimation of city based on a falsehood. A falsehood that we joke about now. A falsehood that George Bush Jr. gets up at a White House correspondent dinner and makes jokes. Oh, he's looking up his ass. No WMDs there. How about over here? Nope, none over there. He. And the whole place laughs. These are, I mean, you're talking about the White House correspondents dinner, right? Okay, these are people that are journalists. Where's your integrity? I don't even know how you could go and just show up at an event with that guy if you're a journalist. I mean, I would be ashamed of myself. And I am a member of the press. I have credentials. I'm a member of the United States Press Agency. And you know what? I mean, I might be a lot of things, but there's one thing that I do have, and that's integrity in what I say. And I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to get behind wars. There's no reason for it. I mean, that's why I played that, that Edwin Starr song the other night. I mean, you know, there's no reason for it, especially where we're supposedly evolved to. We're supposedly so civilized, yet you see the death and destruction that you see. You know, I mean, you just see the malevolence of humanity, and then, you know, I mean, we got a homeless problem that's just out of hand. We have a fentanyl crisis going on that's just absolutely, you know, ridiculous. It's only going to get worse too. I mean, if on May 23rd, this ding dong goes and gets rid of Title 42, there's already hundreds of thousands of people just waiting to come across. And I mean, how are they paying to get, I mean, how are they getting to the borders? I mean, these are people that are paying the cartel. Everybody that's coming across the border has paid the cartel in one way or another. And so they're beholden to them. So, I mean, the cartel packs them full of fentanyl or whatever the fuck it is, you know, they got to take it across. And it goes right into your backyard. We've had to deal with the ramifications of it within the last year. And still are. I mean, you know, when you lose somebody from that, it's not an easy thing. And to see it just keep coming in and nobody cares. I mean, you've got an administration that hasn't even gone to the border. You've got a vice president that sat there and lied on national television. And then when it was called out on it, said, well, I haven't been to Europe either. And so, I mean, talking about a slap in the face, people. Nobody cares. Yeah, she just get there and lie. Yeah, politicians lie. They all do. That's why we need to be done with them. That's why I keep saying, walk away. We know what we need to do, people. All you people out there that I know, you know what you need to do. We know what we all need to do. We know what we need to do to get out there and you know, become energy independent again. We know what it takes. We know what it takes to be able to have a voice, to be able to speak your mind, to be able to speak your piece. We know what the First Amendment is. We know what the Second Amendment is. And we know how to handle ourselves around firearms too. We're not going out there and doing psychotic shit. You know, I mean, growing up, there was firearms in my high school every day. And nobody thought anything of it. When they did start saying something about it, everybody was like, what the hell you mean? I mean, everybody went to school with, everybody had guns in their gun rack parked on school property. They ever pulled one on anybody? I was probably one of the few that didn't hunt. I liked fishing, but that was bad. I did never hunt, you know. My dad wasn't into it. We just didn't do it, you know. But there was certainly no problem with I mean, people would lose their minds. I mean, I remember sitting there and having their kids next to me in the, in the hallway, open their locker up, and there's a rifle sitting in there. Hell, they leave their lockers just dummy locked, lock, but not locked. Or we'd put pencils in there, you just put a pencil in there so it just stay open because we weren't worried about anybody stealing anything from you. And then we've got this. I don't know where we went wrong. We went wrong somewhere, that's for sure, though. And I'm not sure where. Not sure when it happened. I mean, things that, I don't know, I look back on it and I see, Vietnam to me at my age seems to be a place where, things got sideways with that, but it was going on before that too. I mean, you go back to honestly, go back to 1913. Do your homework on 1913. Just Google it if you want to. Just look up 1913 and see what happened in 1913. You'll find out if you're so inclined. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. I don't know. Myself, I like to know the truth. No matter how much it stings. I'd rather know. Rather than, I mean, they say ignorance is bliss, but I don't tend to buy into that theory whatsoever. And I don't think anybody that listens to this show would think that either. I don't think. Maybe so. Maybe yes, maybe no, maybe not, maybe so. But, if you have the wherewithal to sit here and listen to me babble on and on for hours on end, and I would guess that you probably have the inclination to go out there and do some homework for yourself. Most of the people that I talk to do that. Not that I talk to a huge, large circle of people, but anyhow, that was an interesting one. I'm trying to see what else I had on my. We've already talked about the bird flu, so we don't need to go back into that. Oh, so when I was looking, okay, I'm going to get into this. This is an interesting story that just happened a little while ago. So I'm sitting here and I'm talking with Jackson, and I've got the Frank James thing is coming up across the screen, and we're watching it, and then all of a sudden I see a photo, and it's of a Burger King parking lot in Milwaukee. Now, when I was in Milwaukee in 2019, it was the third night of the Widespread Panic Run. I was staying with my friend Zach, and he didn't go to the show that night because he had to work the next day. So I went to the show. So I go down to the Riverside Theater, and when I left his house, I had to call I can't remember if it was Uber or Lyft, one of the two, whatever, doesn't matter. I think it was Lyft. So the guy picks me up at his house, right? So when you get picked up, it puts a, ding, little pin on your map, right? On the app. I mean, so the Panic show gets over, and then my friends from Big Something are playing across the street at Moe's for an after show. So I go over there and watch that. And so by the time that gets out, and I get in an Uber or a Lyft or whatever, and I'm flying out the next afternoon, next evening, I think. So I get in the Lyft. I've got a driver that doesn't speak very good English, obviously from India. And when I got on the app to ping the driver, I just used the location where they had picked me up. Well, I think that what happened is he put the street number in, but he put it was on the wrong side of town. So he drives me, and we're going around and round and round, and we can't find the address. And finally, I'm just like, dude, just drop me off, okay? I'll find it. And I'm like, we're on such and such street, correct? And he's like, tells me yes. And so I just get out the car. And I always ride in the front seat if it's just being by myself, because I feel like I feel like I'm trying to make somebody look like, it's just a guy in a car in a Lyft or an Uber, right? I always ask him first and be like, mind if I just sit up front? Because I'd rather sit there and talk to the guy or the woman or whoever the driver is. I'd rather sit there and have a conversation, act like a human being instead of sitting in the back, acting like I'm, up on some pedestal or whatever. That's just me. I'm an introverted person, but I don't also mind. Especially if I'm in a different city, I like talking to people, especially somebody that drives, because they know the city. Sometimes they want to talk, sometimes they don't. If I get the feeling they don't want to talk, I just shut up. But I like asking questions and shit about places, you know. You want to find out information about where you're at. So this was kind of one of those guys, and I think that part of it was he didn't speak very good English, so I got that from him, that he didn't really want to, didn't want to talk, and that's fine. It was late, whatever. So finally I'm just like, dude, just, if we're on the right street, man, just drop me off. I'll find it. It's all good, man. We don't need to keep going around the block. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, I'm not very familiar with the area. I'm like, it's sure, there's not many fucking street lights. I'm like, the houses don't look quite right. I'm like, this doesn't look like the neighborhood. So I get out and I start walking the street, and I figure I'll walk one way and I'll look at numbers on houses because I have the address, but my phone's going dead, right? Because I've been at a concert all night, and then another I was like, 6 hours of live music. Obviously, snapping some photos here and there and that, and the phones just don't last that long. And I realized my phone's starting to go dead. And so I'm looking, and the street numbers are not making any sense. And I'm walking along, and there's no street lights. It's real dark out. It's a fall night. It's like pushing out, coming up on like right before Halloween. So, late October in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I can smell weed, right? And I can hear what's obviously a bunch of black dudes are out on a patio, and obviously, they're smoking some weed. Big deal. I just keep walking along the way. I'm looking, and I look up, and there's this dude walking at me. And he's in the middle of the street. So I get off the sidewalk, and I get in the middle of the street, right? So I start walking right at him. And he's getting close to me. He's kind of looking at me and kind of sideways and shit. And I said, hey, excuse me, brother. And he's like, yeah, what's up, man? And I was like, hey, man, I'm looking for this address. And I read him the address. And he just looks at me, kind of shakes his head. He's like, you're in the wrong place, man. And I'm like, oh, boy. And I'm at that point, I'm down to like 3%. So I keep stepping in the direction that I'm going. And I don't know which way I'm going at this time. I'm so turned around. And I happen to look back, and I see him. He wheels around, and he gets on the other side of the street, and he's walking behind me now. Now he's following me. And I'm like, okay. So I walk by the house where all these dudes are out front smoking weed on this patio, right? It's kind of an enclosed patio, but it's just got screens. So, you can smell the weed and shit. And I walk by, and I look up, and they're looking at me, and I can see up there because they got a light on inside the porch, and but there's no street lights on the street. Like, it's dark. So like, it's very easy for me to see them, and they're all looking at me, and they're kind of like doing the what the fuck kind of thing, and the dude that was following me, he goes up, and then there's like 4 dudes come down off there, and they start following me up the street. So they're behind me, and I'm thinking, okay, it's 3:00 in the morning. I'm a white guy. I'm obviously not in the best place to be in Milwaukee at 3 a.m. I've got show merch in a bag with me. I'm just looking like a total fucking, Griswold. and so I'm serpentine, and I'm going from, one side of the street to the other side of the street. And I'm looking at my phone, and I'm watching, now I'm down to 2%. I'm just trying to find a place where I can, I'm hoping that maybe I'll find a 24-hour store, something. So I get up to what's 51st and Capitol. It's a Burger King. There's a light stander in the middle of the parking lot with a concrete cylinder on the bottom of the light, just like you see at any, grocery store parking lot, whatever. These dudes are behind me. I go up, I figure, okay, there's got to be a camera on this Burger King somewhere. This is as good place as any. So I just post up under this lamp, this street light in the center of this parking lot. And I sit down, on the, it's like 3 feet tall, the concrete light stander. So I got to sit there with my back against the light post. And these dudes, they're across the street from the parking lot. And they're sitting there. And there's like this house that kind of has a yard, but it's got like a retaining wall. So it's got like concrete and then like chain link. And they're just leaned up against this thing. And they're just sitting there staring at me. And I got to call my friend Zach. I'm just about out of phone juice. I don't think for a second that these dudes are really trying to give me a ride where I'm trying to go. I don't think that they're out to do me any kind of favors whatsoever, right? But I'm under the light. I look at the front of the Burger King. I see what I think kind of looks like a surveillance camera. So I'm thinking, okay, well, if any, and I'd flown in, so obviously I don't have my knife on me. which I typically, when I'm, I usually have what I call my Tennessee toothpick in my pocket. I mean, if things come down to it, we can play. I don't really want to, but we can play. I don't even have that. I got nothing. I don't know what these guys got. I'm assuming the worst, obviously. So I call my buddy, wake him up. He's not happy because it's 3 a.m. He's got to work early in the morning. That's why he didn't go to the show. And I'm like, dude, my phone is going dead. And I said, let me give you the cross streets. And I read him off the cross streets, 51st and Capitol. And he goes, what the fuck are you doing in that neighborhood? I said, I don't know, bro. I said, the fucking Uber driver dropped me off in the wrong fucking place. I said, but I got 4 dudes across the street that don't look too friendly right now at me. I said, I'm in this Burger King. He goes, I know where it is. I said, I'm sitting here under that light in the middle of that parking lot. I'm sitting under this light. And I'm not going anywhere. And I said, my phone is going to die, brother. And I'm like, I owe you one. And thank goodness he jumped in the car and he came and got me. He pulls up, I jump in, and down the road we go. And he's just like, what in the, he's probably still upset with me about that one. But anyway, I'm watching the Frank James video today. And sure enough, there it is. There's a scene on some news report that flashes up on there from Milwaukee. And there was a botched robbery that happened there back in January. And there was a 16-year-old girl that was killed in the deal. And her best friend worked there. And they had set up a staged robbery with the girl that was killed, with her best friend, and then her best friend's father, to where they were going to come through at the end of the night to the drive-thru and do a mock holdup. She was working the drive-thru. She was going to give him the cash, apparently, and then they were going to split it, is what I gather from it. I don't know. It seemed kind of weird. So then there's this other guy that's working there, and his girlfriend is the manager. So he's there, and so they pull up to ask for the money, and the girl who's supposed to just give it to him, she goes and tells, and they said they saw this on the surveillance cameras inside. She goes and tells the manager that she's being robbed. Now, it makes me wonder what else is going on. I've got my theories, but I don't know, so I'm not even going to say it. But apparently the manager hollers at this other guy he's a 34-year-old guy. He's a felon from out of state, and apparently it's known that he's packing a firearm at work at Burger King, and he's in a relationship with the manager. So this is her boyfriend. So she hollers at him. He goes stepping towards where the incident's happening, and this father of the other girl is like waving a firearm through the window and shit. And apparently this guy goes up to a door, and he does the classic where he just like reaches around the door and pops off a number of shots and kills this 16-year-old. And they said there's, on the video, they could see him picking up the casings, which they never did find. He asked the manager, who was his girlfriend, to put the firearm in the safe at the Burger King, which she did. And then she was the one that opened the safe for the police when they showed up, and they'd looked for the guy for like 2 weeks, and he finally turned himself in. And so he's going away. The man that was the father of the other girl, he's going away, and the other girl's going away, and you've got a 16-year-old dead female out of the whole thing. It was one of the craziest. But I'm sitting there looking at it, and I'm telling my son, I'm like, dude, that's the place from Milwaukee. And I got into it. I looked it up, and I was like, holy shit, what is the odds of that? So anyway, Zach, if you're listening out there, I sent him a text message telling him that, because I just thought it was crazy that it just randomly, and I recognize that place. That's, when you end up in a situation like that where things could get a little sideways, you remember it very well. And as soon as I saw that flash across my monitor today, I was like, whoa. I hit rewind. I went back, and it was just a flash of the place. I don't know what it was all about or anything. And I typed it in and got the address. And sure enough, it was the same place, because I remember very clearly telling him that was the corner I was on. I was like 51st and Capitol, because I'm sitting there looking. I'm under that street light or the parking lot light, whatever you want to call it. And I'm looking around, and I'm trying to get my bearings, because I got no phone juice. This is my last call. This is my, what do they call it from that one show? The Lifeline. I don't remember the name of the show. It was the one with that lady. You are the weakest link. That was my lifeline. That was all I had left. I didn't have a charger. I didn't have any kind of a brick charger with me. I had no charge cord. It was me and a bag with, like some Widespread Panic t-shirts and goofy shit in it. I mean, just typical Gaper Griswold stuff, And I mean, it was just really bizarre to see that today. It's like, holy shit. Because that was in 2019, October 2019. And so just to have, it was something that I hadn't thought about in some time. I've told a story to a number of people because it was one of those stories that, it was like, there's not a lot that really scares me. I've been through just about every scenario you can think of. Beat death. I don't know how many. There's been, when you go through those things where you have situations where you probably shouldn't have lived through it. There's not a lot that. I was certainly concerned that night, and that's why I took the steps that I did take. But when you've been in those type of scenarios, time kind of slows down for me. It slows down, and I'm able to think. I'm thinking about what I'm doing. That's why I was serpentining up and down the street. I didn't run because I didn't want to run. That's the last thing that you really want to do. Because for one thing, I'm not that fucking fast. And I'm in a neighborhood where they don't see a white dude walking up the street with Levi's cowboy boots at 3:00 in the morning. And I'm realizing that shit, I'm in the wrong damn place, fool. It's like, I gotta come up with something. And thankfully I came up on that Burger King, and I just stood there in that light, and those guys didn't come over there. And I'm guessing that they probably knew that there was I'm sure that in that neighborhood they had surveillance. They got surveillance cameras on almost every business, even in Cody, Wyoming. But it was just kind of crazy to see that come up today, just out of nowhere. I'm trying to look into this Frank James guy and see what was up with him. Just trying to do my due diligence and look up, where the guy was coming from. He'd been in previous, he had a rap sheet. One of them was a sex offense. I don't know for what. I didn't get that information, but it's some larceny and looked like some B&Es and this and that. But it was just crazy sitting here watching that today and seeing that same, like they'd done like I'm trying to think of when they do like a candlelight vigil for somebody. Well, they had that on. They had like balloons and flowers and stuff around that light post that I was sitting on that night, waiting for my friend to hopefully get there and get my ass out of there. Thank God he woke up. Thank God he came out and got me. He could have been that's when you're happy to have good friends, because that could have gone real sideways for me, especially with not having any kind of communication. There's no pay phones anywhere. I probably had no change on me either. I think I just was using my card all night. Maybe I had some cash. I don't remember. I probably did have cash, but you're out there in a place like that at 3 a.m. It's not like you're running into a lot of really good Samaritans out there, Anyway, I just thought that was a funny story that came up today and just kind of weird, kind of a little blast from the past. But anyway, just continue to watch the leader out there. I don't know what, you fall upstairs, you're shaking hands with ghosts, you shit your pants. You don't know the Declaration of Independence. It's embarrassing, folks. It's embarrassing. And I'm not one of these stand up for Lee Greenwood, proud to be an American type guys, but I love this country. It's all I know. I love the people in this country. I love everybody. Even those guys that were fucking following me up the street. I got no beef with them. Got nothing against them. I kind of understand where they're probably coming from. They're probably, what the fuck is this fucking, what's this fucking malarkey going on here? You know what I mean? Under different occasions, we'd probably be fucking hanging out, be friends. But hey, that wasn't the way it worked out that night. Anyway, I don't know. Keep an eye on the solar stuff going on. It's kind of interesting if you're so inclined. Be careful out there. I'd say get your ass to the grocery store and just buy a little bit extra every time you're there. I'm not saying go out there and buy 47 cases of fucking toilet paper or anything like that. keep an eye on what's going on with the birds. If you like eating eggs, I'd go stock up. They stay good for quite a while in your fridge. That's why I always buy them by the 5 dozen. Or go get you some chickens. Become a chicken farmer. I don't know. But yeah, we've been hitting North Dakota, Iowa. They found up in Wyoming. So anywhere they find these birds that have that H5N1 virus, they have to kill all of them. They basically have to euthanize every single bird in the facility. And when you're talking about like some of these Tyson chicken houses and stuff, where you're talking about, you're talking about some of these buildings that are the size of football fields, thousands and thousands and thousands, if not millions of birds. I think the number was 28 million when I looked at it last week. It's a major food source for people, so it's something to keep an eye on. Everything's going through the roof. It's all going crazy, so I wish I had the answers. I guess all I can say is keep your ear to the ground. Look out for each other. Be good or be good at it. In all things be kind and do no harm. And I'm not sure. I don't really want to take us out with Stars and Stripes forever. I don't know what I want to do here. It's a good song to end on. Fucking Ghostbusters. That'd be a good one, right? I'll get copyrighted on that one too. I don't know. We'll just end it, I guess. Yeah, maybe we can go out on Stars and Stripes. Why don't we do that? We'll just do that. We started it with it. Let's go out on it. Here we go. Or we could do Hail to the Chief. We'll do some old John Philip Sousa. All right, y'all. From the Mike Files, 52 miles east of Yellowstone Park in Coyote, Wyoming. I'm out of here. Maybe we'll catch up and do another one later tonight. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. I'm not really sure. But here we go. John Philip Sousa.
Thank you.